Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today we've got a very interesting topic that honestly I am not excited to make, but I just feel like something has to kind of be said, and I'm sure a lot of you guys out there share my sentiment. It feels like not even an opinion anymore. It's just kind of the way things are. Everyone kind of understands this and everyone just kind of agrees with it. At least that's what I've been seeing from around the community. But basically, Arabia team games simply aren't fun anymore. It's really sad to say because Arabia is a classic map for Age of Empires 2. It's still really fun on 1v1s. Don't get it twisted, Arabia is still a solid map. But for team games, it's just not fun anymore at all. And what I'm going to say, and I'm going to present to you why I think that, it applies to all settings. 2v2, 3v3, 4v4. Everything to do with team games on Arabia just feels really, really, really bad right now. And I'm going to give you guys my reasoning, and you can see if you guys agree with me or not in the comments below. And yeah, let's hop in. And of course, just a reminder to come check me out on Twitch. Link in the description. Follow me there. We do live streams, and I just want to see new faces come over from YouTube. Helps me out a lot to grow that channel as well with the live streaming situation. So starting off at number one, the core reason as to why team games on Arabia just suck, and that is the stale meta. Now, if you consider some other maps like Black Forest, Arena, those maps allow for a lot of different strategies. You can go for like fast imp pushes, you can go for some sort of siege push, you can go for some sort of 2v1 like human boom into ram push, something like that. It allows for some strategies. But on Arabia, there's literally only one playstyle that works, and that is flank going archers, pocket going scouts. Over the years, there have been tons of different strategies, don't get me wrong. This is a very modern problem where people just simply figured out that nothing beats this combination if you do a couple things. You have to do these. You have to up super fast with archers on the flank, like as soon as possible. People don't even make a mill. They just go mining camp, like lumber camp and then mining camp. That's it. They don't even mill till feudal age. They put everything on food initially and then pretty much everything on wood and gold to afford 2-range archer protection right away. They'll even idle their TC for fletching or for the wood upgrade, and they'll go all in 2-range archers and push on the flank. If you're 30 seconds late, 20 seconds late, you're dead. Simple as that. You're so far behind, you can never catch up. Because how can you catch up? If you die to archers and you're also making archers, you A, have to somehow make more archers and overpower your opponent, which is not possible because the build is too tight. So there's no resources that are left to spare. B, switch to a counter unit. There's no counter unit in feudal age to archers and scouts. If you go skirms, it costs a lot of food, which is hard on the economy. And then the scout player of the enemy just kills you. You need skirms with armor. Even then, the archer scout is just a better composition. And that is if you even survive to get to skirms and armor. Usually you just get rolled by the archers. So if you fall behind, there's nothing you can do. There's no tech switch that counters archer scouts. And so what people figured out is that let's just up as fast as possible on the flank, have the most perfect build possible, and then put as much pressure on our opponent as possible. They have no counterplay unless they do exactly what I do and somehow do it better. That is the only counterplay. And then the pockets have a bit more interesting of a game. They go scouts and they develop their economy. They have some decisions to make, whether to go a lot of scouts, bloodlines, armor, attack, or just go castle age. A little bit more interesting, but they're doing scouts into knights or scouts into camels every game. Pretty much that is what you have to do. And this stale meta is just boring. Like, nobody likes to do the exact same thing every single game. And I know what you might be thinking, like if you're like a casual player or a casual watcher, you might be thinking, what's the difference between this and 1v1 Arabia? Well, the situation in 1v1 Arabia is completely different, because if my opponent goes for all-in archers, I can just switch to skirms, and it's a lot more dynamic. If I switch to skirms, he can then go scouts. And so even if every game might look the same from the outside perspective, in game it's completely different. Like, you have a lot of decisions to make. You're constantly thinking, constantly having to scout. Different pushes like siege pushing, monk pushing exist, unique units exist. A lot of options are available in 1v1 because counter units work. In team games, counter units do not work at all, because you need to have a counter to the composition and not a counter to a singular unit. And a counter to a composition, unfortunately, does not exist, since scouts and archers is the best composition in the game by far. And so we have the situation where we have a super stale meta, and players are simply competing as to who can do it better, not who can come up with a better strategy, not who can scout better, not who can macro better, just simply who can execute the build order and micro the fights a bit better and somehow get the castle age slightly faster if he can't win in feudal age. That is basically what it comes down to. Of course, if it goes late game, miraculously, if both players play really well and it goes late game, different things come up, but usually it's just Arbalest Paladin for the most part still, but different options come up. But from basically Dark Age to Castle Age, it's the exact same game every single time. And I already talked about this before, but the reason why the meta is extremely hard to break now is because the uptimes have gotten so fast that there's literally no time for us to break the meta. Like, if we're talking about like a few years ago, 20 pop archers is not bad. Like 20 pop archers, we were doing like one range 20 pop archer. You can counter that. You can wall up and play a bit safe. Now we're doing something like 18 pop for the good civs. 2 range archers, 19 pop if you're a bit slow, lure all your deer, 19 pop archers with Ethiopians. Nobody's stopping that. There's not a single strategy, walls, towers that will stop that. And if randomly, suddenly you have an amazing map and you're a genius and you wall it up on the flank, they go straight to your pocket. If your pocket walls, they go straight to the other side. The death ball of archers and scouts will find value in a team game no matter what. And this is another difference that distinguishes team games from 1v1. If in 1v1, if you overmake army and the guy's walled and you don't do damage, you're dying to castle age units in like a few minutes. But in team game, there's no such thing as walled. It's either the whole team's walled or no one's walled, because if there's even one guy on your team that's open, he will get destroyed. He will get nuked and he will be so far behind that he can't catch up and the game is lost. So the idea in a team game that army always gets value leads people to just make the strongest army and then look for that value instead of thinking, will I get value for the army? Should I make this army? That question is completely gone. It's I will make army and I'm just gonna have to look where I can find that damage, which is basically the easy part now that people have gotten so good at Age of Empires 2. And by the way, what I'm saying applies not only at high level. This is not like a top 1% issue. This is like a top 10% issue. Like even guys at like 14, 1500 are following this exact situation. Even guys at 1200 Team Game Elo are following this exact situation. Obviously they're gonna be playing at lower level, so it's like not gonna be as clean, but the ideas are still the exact same. And so I make the statement that this is basically the situation at all levels that are not complete beginners. And this is a really big problem because when you have something so stale in a strategy game, it takes the strategy aspect out of it, and that completely corrupts the nature of Age of Empires and just leaves a sour taste in my mouth personally. And on top of that, the only way left to break this meta involves Dark Age cheesing, sending vills forward, laming, walling in resources, or douching, which is like town center dropping in Castle Age, completely sacrificing a flank just to take out the enemy flank, just to make the game messy for God's sake and break the stale meta. But I have a problem with that too, because that playstyle is also kind of lame. And if that's the only option to the meta, then it's like you either play a standard boring game or you play some messy, again, very little strategy game, because dropping your town center on your opponent's flank, not too much strategy in that. If that's what you're going to go for every game, that also will get stale very fast. And so it seems like you're just dealing with a situation where it's bad and worse. And right now we're stuck on the bad, but it could get worse if people start douching as the response to this. And douching doesn't actually work 100% of the time. It's actually not a good strategy. It's never been, but it at least provides some alternative at least. Another issue that is kind of a minor point to the main issue, which is the staleness, is the fact that picking Civ is kind of common in ranked games, and this just simply amplifies the issue. If we're playing random Civ, you might get Dravidians on pocket that have no knights, and then Viper says you're fine, I say you're screwed, and you have to do something else. You have to go scouts into elephants, you have to go like forward with skirms and spears on the pocket, something different. If you get a Mezza Civ on pocket, you can't go scouts into knights. And if you get Spanish on the flank, you can go archers, but you have to find something else, not crossbow. So random Civs do kind of make the game slightly more interesting, but the core is archer scouts besides some oddities. However, with picking Civ, not only do you get 100% of the time the stale meta of archer scout, you also get the best civs at it, which leads to the most snowbally games, which leads to the most degenerate all-in games, which leads to you losing the game because of one bad engagement rather than a strategy or a genius move by the opponent. Those just simply don't exist. And perhaps the most doomsday part of this video is the fact that I have no solution to this problem. This video isn't like, oh, this is a problem, but don't worry guys, I know the solution. Look at me, I'm gonna save the game. I took off my Superman cape for this video. I don't have one actually, but if I did, I'd be putting it to the ground and burning it right now because I have no solution to this problem. I just don't understand how we can break this meta. Like there's just nothing that I can even work with that could somehow challenge this. And I've tried. I've actually played some team games on my stream lately on Twitch, and I went Skirm Spear. I'm a 2K7, 2K8 player. I'm dying to 2Ks. I'm dying to 1900s who are just playing the meta. I can't break the meta. I'm getting rolled, like dying in Feudal Age. And I'm trying my best to break the meta and do something a little different, and nothing's working. So I simply don't have a solution. I've tried a few things. I thought about it in theory, what could be changed? Simply nothing helps. Towering up doesn't work because they just go to your pocket. Walling up doesn't work for the same reason. Any other unit just dies to the combo. Nothing actually works. And unfortunately, I don't have a solution in sight. And I leave it open to you guys in the comments if you guys have any ideas for this. But this is where I see this going. I see it going to where we have a lobby system instead of a rank queue, and the lobby system will be ranked, and we abolish the team game rank queue, and players can just choose to play Arabia or choose to play another map. And most people would probably choose to play other maps. So we just kind of make Arabia not as popular. Or if we have only ranked queue right now, then people can just ban Arabia, right? And I think that's probably the most common solution to this problem. Just simply ban the map. It's just simply not fun to play. That's what a lot of people are doing. A lot of people just don't like to play Arabian team games. The other thing is to maybe rework Arabian team games where we create more distance between one team and the other. So fast upping and going archers right away is not the only strategy. Maybe some other strategies could come up. or maybe keeping the allies closer to allow for more team walls, something like that to change a little bit how the map functions. Maybe removing some deer so you can't up as fast as you can. Maybe something like that can be interesting. But even in all of these changes, I'm not certain. I'm not providing them as solutions. These are simply ideas that could potentially change or shake things up. But ultimately, it's likely to just always come back to the same stale old meta. And it's really unfortunate to have to end the video on a negative, or not a negative, but more or less like there's no light at the end of the tunnel for this. That's the kind of tone we're kind of working with. But I'm always real with you guys. I just call it how it is. And I just want to say that it's a bit of a shame that one of the maps that we've loved for so long has turned into what it is right now. But it's one of those things where players getting so good at a game sometimes hurts the game and hurts the fun of it, because things get figured out that just simply have no counter and no solution. And I'll end by saying that this usually happens to all games that don't get any balance changes. But in the case of AoE, there's actually constant balance changes. It's just that none of the balance changes can target what's wrong with Arabia team games, because the problems of Arabia team games happen at the core of what Age of Empires 2 is: scouts and archers and feudal age. You can't really change that unless you completely change the game, and that's just simply not going to happen. It's not worth changing the game for just this one game mode. And I'll end by saying that this is the case with 2v2, 3v3, 4v4. In 2v2, it's archer scout. 3v3, it's a little bit more interesting. The pocket can go either this side or this side, but it's double archers, pocket goes cav. And then 4v4 is basically 2v2 on each side, which is archer scout, archer scout. And that is the way things are. And let's see what happens in the future. I expect that things won't really change, but we've already noticed that players have started migrating towards Nomad, Amazon Tunnel, Michi, Black Forest, just other maps in general that see a lot more play on the ranked ladder. Thanks so much for watching this video, guys. Let me know what your thoughts are on the topic. And as always, stay safe, much love, and peace.